Hello, everybody. Welcome to our RedRaiders.com pregame show. Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal alongside AJ Media sports writer Carlos Silva Jr. We are wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving week first off, and then going to talk about Texas Tech against Texas. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff Friday night in Austin at the University of Texas Darrell Royal Memorial Stadium. Texas Tech goes into this one 5-6, a 2-6 record in the Big 12, and Texas goes in 6-5, 5-3. We will break it all down for you right after this from University Medical Center. Back on the RedRaiders.com pregame show, brought to you by University Medical Center, taking a look at Texas Tech against Texas. 7 p.m. kickoff Friday night down in Austin. Red Raiders won there 2 years ago, 48-45. Texas Tech has never won back-to-back in Austin, though, with a 6-30 record all time. And Carlos, way back on October 7th, I believe it was, we weren't thinking that we would be sitting here on Thanksgiving week talking about Texas Tech needing another victory to get bowl eligible. Not after that 4-1 start, but we sit here and Red Raiders have lost 5 of 6 since then, and now this is their last chance to extend the season.
Absolutely, and then throughout that process, obviously they had multiple chances to get to that 5th win early on. You had West Virginia had a lead there, squandered in the second half. You also had a chance against some other teams as well, but I think the biggest thing right now that Cliff Kingsbury said is he's trying to get that extra game for the seniors, and certainly that's going to be the focus, but if they want to do that, they have to put a much better effort on the offensive end than they've had the last couple games. Yeah,
with the offense just bottoming out last Saturday against TCU's 27-3 loss to the Horned Frogs. Red Raiders were effective moving the ball between the 30s, between the 20s, but got inside that 30-yard line of TCU and 6 occasions and had 2 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, 1 made field goal, 1 turnover on downs. That is a poor ratio in the red zone, and Cliff Kingsbury, that was the first thing when he was asked to review the game in his press conference on Monday. That was the first thing that he noted was Texas Tech now this season number 127 out of 129 teams in red zone offense. And Carlos, Texas is not a real good team to get healthy against, to correct that deficiency.
No, absolutely. Texas has a lot of athletes in the secondary. That's how they've been playing a couple of the teams that they've played against prior. And then, of course, they got the big, huge upset victory against West Virginia last week. Now, again, you can kind of take it for how it's worth with the way that Will Greer was unable to complete the game because of the horrendous finger injury. He was able to get that surgically repaired, so hopefully he's doing well. But the fact that they still got the win against West Virginia that got them bowl eligible, so it's not going to be 2 teams looking for bowl eligibility. It's going to be a team that Tom Herman said in his media press conference earlier this week, a team that is 1-6 in its senior day game. So in the last 7 years, certainly not a good way to end the season for Texas. So certainly trying to find a way to kind of motivate his squad going into this one.
1-6 in senior days the last 7 years?
I believe that is what he said.
I was not aware of that. But I was going to say before you said that, even though Texas has bowl eligibility out of the way, took care of that last week, I think the senior day, with it being senior day, that should be an incentive for those guys to want to go win another game, although it's a pretty small senior class that the Longhorns have, only 13 guys that they are saying so long to. Touching, though, back on Tech's offensive struggles and Texas D, looking at it before we went on today, you know, the Texas Longhorns, pretty much any way you slice it, have been a good defensive team this year. And I think maybe what says it best is within the Big 12, which is generally known as a prolific offensive conference, very pass happy. They have now a 6-game streak of allowing fewer than 30 points. That's impressive in the Big 12. And during that 6-game streak, the average points against the Longhorns is only 19 points per game. You talked about the you know, they got playmakers on the back end, a Thorpe Award finalist in Deshaun Elliott, who has 6 takeaways by himself this season, 6 interceptions and a fumble recovery. He's also gotten into the backfield with 8.5 tackles for loss. And, Carlos, it seems like you know, for about the last 3 years, I've been hearing about how great Malik Jefferson was going to be, the linebacker. And for a couple of years, he wasn't really that good, at least not what he was cracked up to be. And the word out of Austin this year seems to be that Malik Jefferson is finally emerging as a junior and really being the kind of force that people expected him to be.
Well, I think with the new defensive coordinator, the new head coach, I think there's just a new voice there. I think Todd Orlando's definitely done some wonders with him, because I know you mentioned senior day where you may only see these guys with their last game. Malik Jefferson could be a guy that could get paid some money depending on how you see things. He's looked at as a top 5 pick in this draft, which is saying something. So certainly he's got the intangibles and the tangibles to be a very good linebacker, or whatever you want in terms of an athlete at the NFL level. That's one guy that you're going to have to focus on and key on. And basically on that point, you just have to have a really good running game, which is something that if you're able to do that against a Texas team, I know you mentioned this, was very good against the run. I think that could be the difference in this one, especially with the way that Justin Stockton ran against the TCU defense that was giving up about 87 yards a game. He had 124 against them, didn't have a touchdown, unfortunately, but he was able to run roughshod against them. And that was without Trey King for most of that game, so showing that he could be a feature back at some points, but certainly you would like that 1-2 punch back.
Yeah, and Trey King, according to Cliff Kingsbury, will be back this week. And King had been a consistent guy for you. I believe, if I remember correctly, the 5 games previous to last week, he had rushed for 400 yards, an average of 80 per game. He's supposed to be back, so you'll have your kind of complement of feature backs there. Carlos, I guess one of the another aspect, another angle of this for both teams is who do you see at quarterback? Red Raiders fans have been for a while now clamoring for
McLean Carter.
See some McLean Carter.
They saw him. They saw him
They've
against
seen him
TCU.
a little bit. They've seen him a little bit
against TCU. So
what would you do if you're in Cliff Kingsbury's shoes?
I mean, at this point, you've already stuck with Nick Shimanek throughout the season. Stick with him one more game. But if maybe that first series doesn't go as planned, might as well just kind of see if he can get some energy out of McLean Carter, the lefty. Or heck, I mean, you got Jet Duffy there in the wings as well. See what he's been able to learn through practices, or just any reps that he's gotten through practices throughout the year. Like I said, you've got those 2 guys there. See what you've got for next season, and certainly that'll be one thing, because I think people forget that this is Nick Shimanek's first year starting. He's a redshirt senior, but he's kind of been behind some really prolific quarterbacks throughout his career. And I think with what he's been able to do, obviously the win-losses aren't what he would like it to be, but he's certainly been an efficient quarterback when he has been given the chance and given the time in the pocket.
You flip it around, and I guess some Texas Tech, David Gibbs this week, I'm sure, having to prepare for 2 quarterbacks because the Longhorns have played a couple of guys and played them both a bunch. You got the sophomore Shane Buechele and the freshman Sam Ehlinger, and those 2 QBs, their numbers are pretty close to identical. Ehlinger has completed 121 passes this year, 1,564 yards. Shane Buechele has completed 129 passes, only 8 more, 1,344 yards. I think you'll see both of them. Buechele a little bit more of the pocket passer, seems like to me. Ehlinger's a guy, 6'2", 230 pounds, and he's not afraid to lower his shoulder and run at you. 333 yards rushing this season and a couple of touchdowns on the ground for him.
But we'll see if he'll like to run if he does get a hit from Dakota Allen or Jordan Brooks, 2 guys that are certainly 2 Big 12 linebackers. I believe Dakota Allen's about 6'2", 6'3", 245 pounds, and Jordan Brooks about 6'2", 6'3"-ish, and then about 235 pounds. So 2 guys that could certainly put a licking if they do get the opportunity to do that against Ehlinger, and maybe make him fumble the ball, which is something that they've been able to do, that being the Texas Tech defense. Had one with Justice Parker last week where he was forcing a fumble against Sean Robinson, a freshman, by the way, and that put them to 23 takeaways, which leads the Big 12 so far. And I think that's going to be the difference as well, if they're able to make Texas turn the ball over, get the field again, hopefully get the offense going. And then, of course, if the offense is able to go, I think the defense has just been playing fantastic the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, a ton of pressure on the defense. You touched on it, 23 turnovers, or pardon me, 23 takeaways, turnovers gained. That's first in the Big 12 from Texas Tech's defense, also number 10 in the FBS. But, Carlos, I just I'll look at it and I think, man, it's going to be a lot of pressure on the defense, and the defense is going to need two or three takeaways because I just don't have a good feeling about the offense now. Here's another stat for you. Texas defensively, number 4 in the FBS in third down defense, with opponents converting only 27% of the time against the Longhorns. 1 out of 4 on third down, Texas opponents are this season. So some rough sledding, and it makes me wonder because help me out here. Throughout the season, we have not seen very much in the way of trick plays from Cliff Kingsbury. But you think back to, well, let's go back to the year before last, up at Arkansas. Tech wins at Arkansas. One of the big plays in that game was they line up Jakeem Grant in the backfield and he throws a touchdown pass to Reginald Davis for 72 yards. That was a key play in that game. And, of course, everyone remembers how the Texas game in Austin finished 2 years ago with Tech trailing. And then they line up hide Jakeem right behind an offensive tackle.
They literally hit him. He was about 5'2" at the point.
Yeah.
So.
Put the ball on the ground. He picks it up and scoots about 40 yards for the touchdown. We haven't really seen much of that this year from Cliff Kingsbury, and I'm thinking Friday night, I'm expecting him to pull out some stops. I'm thinking it's going to be – we have seen some games from him in the past where it was not just one trick play, it was 2 or 3 trick plays, and it wouldn't surprise me. And I think – what do you have to lose now? It wouldn't surprise me if he does that some more.
Absolutely, but I think when you say trick plays, I mean, there are certain new things or new kind of wrinkles that you've had in the offense. I know having Nick Shimonek under center was something that was different when you had Dylan Cantrell kind of go in motion and get a handoff from Nick Shimonek and obviously scored that big touchdown to the right corner of the end zone earlier this year. But certainly, yeah, trick plays are something you have not seen. Maybe you'll pull them out in this game, or maybe you just might see a very good defensive effort from the Red Raiders. We'll see. But certainly you're going to need a lot of things to go right for you against Texas because a road game's always tough. But the fact that you need to get this victory to even get to bowl eligibility, and again, we've kind of left the elephant out of or kind of missed the elephant in the room here. Cliff Kingsbury might be coaching for his job too as well.
Yep, and I don't know. If a win saves him, I don't know that a win does not save him.
That's true.
I'm not really sure that anyone outside of Kirby Hoka knows exactly what's going to happen on Friday night, regardless of the outcome of that game.
But certainly, if they do get the victory, they'll get a bowl. So they'll at least get that extra game. Obviously, the extra practices, which will help. If Cliff is able to stay with this coaching staff, you have those extra practices. You have all that to go with you. Or if you have a new coaching staff that you want to try and integrate, you have all that to go with you as well. So a lot of positives if you win. Obviously, a lot of negatives if you lose.
So it's prediction time here on the pregame show. Carlos, you want to go first?
I guess so. This is the first time I've actually prepared because you reminded me that I do need a score. So 35 for Texas. And I just cannot see the way that Texas Tech has been playing offense that they score above 20 points. So I'm going to go 35-17. It's just been a tough go for Texas Tech on the offensive side. They may keep it close early on with a couple turnovers, but I just think Texas has the bigger playmakers in the wide receiver core, Little Jordan Humphrey, Colin Johnson, who we haven't mentioned. Those are 2 guys. Maybe Chris Warren gets going. I know he's been an H-back role so far, or he's been moved to an H-back with some of the attrition at the tight end position, but I think the big plays are going to be kind of the downfall for the Red Raiders this game in a 35-17 loss.
We're seeing pretty much the same game, I think. And before I asked you, I was kind of seeing it as a 31-17 Texas victory. Longhorns are favored by 10 in this one, although to the extent the line has moved, it's actually drifted a little bit down toward Texas Tech. I saw a couple of the Las Vegas lines have dropped to 9.5 in Texas' favor, but we both see the Longhorns covering just because I think it's going to be a tough sledding for that Texas Tech offense. We will have pregame coverage in the pages of the AJ on Friday, and then Carlos and I both will be in Austin on Friday night for that game with post-game reaction, columns, notebooks, and all our usual stuff as well. And then depending on what happens afterward, we will continue to be tracking Texas Tech football closely. We thank you for listening in today, tuning in today. So for our engineer-producer, Brad Tollison, and for Carlos Silva Jr., I'm Don Williams from the Avalanche-Journal. Everyone, take care. We appreciate you joining us all season for the RedRaiders.com pregame show and podcasts and postgame show, all brought to you by University Medical Center. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again soon.